Krishna. I'd like to welcome everyone for our Sunday program. And today I wanted to speak about how Krishna expands himself into everything, and how we can be in touch with Krishna by understanding and seeing everything as part of Krishna. So this is, I'll read from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text number 30. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mahi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he lost to me. Please repeat. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance, he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond self-realization, a devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita 538, Ramanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayashu Vilokayanti Yam Syama Sundaram Achintya Guna Svarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Vachami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shamsundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing Krishna within himself. Om Jnana Timirandasya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vichaitanyamano Vishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahayam Tadamti Shvapadam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Vishutarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Amchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindu Yevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So this is the vision that we should be aspiring for. Krishna consciousness is the easiest thing in this world. It is the cheapest, easiest. Generally, if we find something is very cheap, no, meaning we're speaking about money now, something very cheap, then we think it must not have any quality. But the most valuable thing in life, for them there is no material calculation. Srila Prabhupada says here in his purport that a devotee may be seen, as Rupa Goswami says, Ihayasya Haryardasya Karmanamanas Nikilasvasya Vastasu Jivanmuktasa Uchati. That a devotee of the Lord, Ihayasya Haryardasya, while in this world only worships Krishna. And not only they don't worship Krishna just by doing an arti or by some process, but karmanam anusagina. Every activity, every thought, every word is dedicated to Krishna. This is what it means here by full vision. And even though they may appear to be like others, meaning, as Prabhupada says here, they see everything in this material manifestation. They see what I'm seeing. They drive a car, I drive a car. The devotee drives a car, everybody else drives. The devotee works, everybody else works. But the difference is that when they're working for Krishna. When they're driving, hopefully, they're driving for, because this is all hopefully. It doesn't always happen. But if one has this vision, and this is the only vision, as Srila Prabhupada said, this vision, even for a great yogi, and Srila Prabhupada ends his purport by saying, this vision, even for a great yogi, is not there. But if the yogi understands that the actual goal is Paramatma, then that vision will develop. So we may be neophyte devotees, and we may not be on this platform, or we may not be anywhere near this platform of seeing everything in Krishna, of that every word I speak is only about Krishna. Every thought that I have is only about Krishna. Every action that I do is fully dedicated to Krishna. We may not be. Most likely, most of us aren't like that. Most likely, maybe 20% of my words or actions or thoughts are about Krishna. Just like one time I was traveling in South India on an airplane, and from one place to another, and one man sitting next to us, he said, "Why are you dressed like this?" And so the said, "We're devotees of Krishna." And he said, "Oh yes, Krishna, I know all about Krishna." I said, so you read Bhagavad Gita?" "No, but I know everything about it." So this is not just some tendency in India, this is everywhere. When I, sometimes in different places in Latin America or in different countries, when I speak to people about the importance of being God conscious, I'm always thinking about that. I'm always, but then we can see practically that that's not happening. So, therefore, our acharyas, like Rupa Goswami, and all of our acharyas, down to Srila Prabhupada and every acharya who follows these acharyas, who is in the parampara, must give this understanding. We cannot cheapen Krishna consciousness. We cannot dilute Krishna consciousness. The tendency is, in any religion, in any spiritual process, that when it becomes bigger, then you have to try to make it palatable for everyone. Prabhupada said this is like sugar-coated medicine or candy-coated medicine. But you can't put so much candy that the medicine doesn't work. No. And this is sometimes what happens, that we try to make it very nice for everyone. And Srila Prabhupada said, that is our duty. We want to take, later on today, I want to, other program, Kirtan program, I want to read one quote of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What is real Nam-Sankirtan? What is the real chanting of the holy name? I'll save that for later. Because I don't have it with me right now. I don't know it by heart. But, so whether we're chanting or we're doing service on the altar, or whether we're doing some service in our home, or whether we are trying to convert our daily activities into service for Krishna, which we should be doing all of these things. Our goal is to come to this platform. We should never be complacent and think that where I am now is okay. There's a famous book, I'm okay, you're okay. Otherwise, let us all collude, let us all join together and agree that whatever I am, I am. Just like one devotee told me maybe a month, 2 months ago, mentioned that that's the way I am. And then I said, well, that may be the way you are, but what do you want to be? Otherwise, if we're satisfied with our level of devotion, then we cannot make any progress. A devotee is never satisfied. A devotee is always satisfied in the sense that because we have full Krishna consciousness, but even one who has full Krishna consciousness is satisfied and not satisfied. Satisfied because by Krishna's mercy and by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, that I am making spiritual progress, that I am advancing in Krishna consciousness. But inwardly, they're thinking, because they attribute their success in Krishna consciousness to the mercy of the parampara. And therefore, they're always thinking, because Krishna is unlimited, that I know nothing about Krishna. So these two things, just like a devotee is free from anxiety and always in anxiety. Free from anxiety because being Krishna conscious, one can actually be peaceful, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed to Sanatana Goswami that Krishna Bhakti Nishkam Atta Eva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhikam Shakal Shanta. He said that a devotee of Krishna is always peaceful because a devotee has no desire other than the desire to serve Krishna. And because, as Srila Prabhupada states in his purport here, that a devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that we simply desire, the only desire of Krishna, the only desire of a devotee is to fulfill the will of the Lord as He presents it in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, different Puranas, where Krishna presents, He Himself speaks in the form of Vishnu or in the form of Krishna. What is Krishna consciousness? Or His devotee, Sri Guru. Sri Guru means Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. How they are tailoring Krishna consciousness to our particular situation and need. But because something may be tailored, just like I always give the example that someone may approach the spiritual master and say, please tell me how I can be more Krishna conscious. Well, do this. Oh, that's very difficult. No. Well, then you can do this. Well, I'm not very good at that. Well, then you can do this. Well, actually, I don't have time for that. Well, then just chant and be happy. Thank you very much. No, thank you for yours. So, it's not like that. Krishna consciousness means that, as Srila Prabhupada explained one time, explaining the famous verse from Brahma Samhita, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis, that Krishna consciousness is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. It is eternal, sweet, loving, transcendental bliss. That is Krishna consciousness. Bhakti, bhavita. That at every moment it is present. These are some characteristics of Krishna consciousness. It is always present. It is eternal. There's never a moment without Krishna consciousness. And Tadir Taeva Nitya Rupataya Kalhavi. And Krishna, that ever blissful source of everything, Goloka, in Goloka Vrindavan, he expands himself into Srimati Radharani, who is the personification of Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. The highest bliss in Krishna consciousness is found in Srimati Radharani. Then he expands himself into the gopis, and then the gopis, they expand themselves into the queens of Dwarka, and the queens of Dwarka expand themselves into Lakshmi, etc. Then into Durga. And in the same way, Krishna expands himself into Balaram, Chakravyuha, and then they expand into so many Vishnu forms. And then the Vishnu forms take the form of Rudra in the material world with some slight tinge of material characteristics. But then Krishna also expands himself into the material energy. And just like in the spiritual world, there's unlimited variety of Leela, pastimes. With Krishna, the gopis, the cowherd boys, everyone is experiencing the same transcendental bliss through the variety of service, the varieties of interchanges and pastimes with Krishna. So in the same way, Krishna's material energy creates unlimited varieties. But those unlimited varieties always end up the same. The unlimited varieties in the spiritual world, they create Anandam Buddhivardhanam, increasing bliss. And the unlimited varieties in the material world create unlimited anxiety. One anxiety after another, after another, after another. So Srila Prabhupada, and at the same time, Krishna, because, as Lord Brahma says, he's expanded, he's in the heart of every living being. So he's always there. And a devotee has that vision. And just as Krishna expands himself, in Nicharupataya Kalabi, he expands himself into Radha Gopinath. He expands himself into Gornita. He expands himself into Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. They're all coming from Krishna. So why would Krishna want to be in Trinidad, or in Chicago, or in London, or in Delhi? Delhi, people may think, well, that's India, it's a little better. One may think like that. But actually Delhi, interesting that in Delhi, the water table is going down to the point where by the end of next year, there may not be enough water for people to even bathe. So, one thing is so wonderful. Of course, India is wonderful because of Krishna, otherwise it wouldn't be so wonderful. It's wonderful because of Krishna. And everything is wonderful because of Krishna. And our life is wonderful because of Krishna. So Krishna expands himself, not only into the deity, as Srila Prabhupada explained in one lecture, that Krishna can become, because everything is Krishna's energy, so Krishna can manifest himself in marble, in stone, in brass, in water, in clay, in so many different forms. It's like in South India, there's one deity. This deity was formed by the river. I can't remember which river it was. I was there in Andhra Pradesh. And you see this deity, it's like amazing. The river just made this Vishnu form right there. So even water, Krishna can manifest through water. And he's the taste of water, as he himself declares in Bhagavad Gita. So, and he can manifest when someone takes these elements and invites Krishna into the element. Or, but that requires Shakti. That requires the ability to do so. Just like electricity. An electrician can take electricity and convert it into heat or into coal or into energy for producing some type of energy. But he must know he must have the ability to do so. Just like we can't, any of us, if we're not trained, we can't simply go and make some electrical connection. But by the facility given to us, we simply have to take something, plug it into the wall, and the electricity is there. So Krishna is one example that's given in Shastra, that Krishna is like a thief. Krishna means thief. One of the definitions of Krishna. So, just like you can make so many arrangements. You can put big walls with barbed wire on top to keep the thieves out. But an expert thief will always know how to get in. You can have the best car with the most secure locks, but an expert thief, whatever technology they come out with to protect their cars, a thief will come out with a technology to be able to break into it. So no one invites a thief. No one puts a sign. Any thieves around, please come and steal from me. Of course, unless somebody has some special insurance. Do that. Normally, we wouldn't do that. So, the example is given that Maya creates huge walls. But Krishna can always enter in. Otherwise, Maya is always challenging us. The illusory energy is always challenging us, putting up all kinds of invitations to enjoy material energy, all kinds of obstacles to our progress in Krishna consciousness. All these things can be, Maya is very expert, but Krishna is more expert. The point is that we should never think that, or justify our desire to enjoy this material world by thinking, well, what can I do? But it's like this, it's like, because Krishna is always more expert. He can always get in. We simply have to have that faith and that understanding that Krishna can get in. So there are so many verses, even here in Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter, that speak about the end of the 8th chapter. Vedishu Chagishu Tapasu Jaiva. I'm just not remembering the whole verse. Dhanishu Yat Dhanishu. I'll find it right here. Dhanishu Yat Punya Param Pratishtam Abhyanti Yat Sarvavidam Viditva. That there are all these Vedic processes, and they may help us. They may create a favorable condition so that Krishna consciousness can progress, can become more intense. But without bhakti, without the real understanding of what is the nature of bhakti, And what is the nature of bhakti, especially in Kali Yuga? Satatam Vikayantamam Yatatashtabhidhavika. That Krishna himself says, one must be a Mahatma, Mahatmanas Kamam Bhartya, Devi Prakriti Mashuktaha. And one has to take shelter of the spiritual energy to become a Mahatma. And how does one take shelter of the spiritual energy? That Ananya Manasa, that the mind should not deviate. And how does the mind not deviate? Satatam Kitayantama. That one is always engaged in glorifying Krishna, either with one's actions, mind, words, or somehow or another one is always engaged. And yet the Tashtridha. So these two things, Satatam Kitayantama, means always being vigilant. In other words, always being sincere, trying to advance more Krishna consciousness. And yet the Tashtridha means namasintas. That one, by performing the different recommended activities in Krishna consciousness, because no one can be forced. In one letter, Srila Prabhupada wrote 1972 to Bhaktidas, who was the president of San Diego Temple, or maybe he was in San Diego and he was in San Francisco. I'm not sure which one in 72. But Prabhupada wrote him a letter because some of the devotees in the temple were complaining that he was too heavy. That we've heard this before. Especially anyone who's ever been a temple president everywhere, you get accused of that. Some people say they're too heavy. Some people say they're not doing anything. Some people say no. But so this, I know him. He's pretty heavy. But he was very heavy at that time. And so Prabhupada wrote a letter. He said, "It is not Krishna consciousness means love," as Srila Prabhupada says here, and he quotes from Ramasamhita Premanjana Tripta Bhakti Vilochana, that it means awakening the eye of the heart so that one can see Krishna with proper vision. So Prabhupada said that it's a question of love. And because it is love, it cannot be forced. Krishna consciousness cannot be forced upon us. Of course, as we accept different levels of ourselves promising or obliging ourselves by accepting the spiritual initiation, chanting a minimum of 16 rounds, maximum unlimited, but minimum 16, following four regulated principles, performing devotional service. We accept these things on initiation. Then we are voluntarily accepting that yes, at least the spiritual master or spiritual authority, there can be some force, meaning I'm accepting a discipline, and any discipline, it can be enforced, but ultimately it cannot be forced. We cannot force anyone to be Krishna conscious, but we can try to inspire them. And inspiration means example. So therefore, and who do we want to inspire? It's not that we only want to be an example for some devotees or for some people on the outside. We want to be an example for everyone. This is called achar, and one who does that is called acharya. When one's behavior is exemplary, just like Srila Prabhupada. In the beginning of this movement, Srila Prabhupada had no authority. When he came to the West, when he came to New York, he had no authority, nor did anyone attribute to him any authority. They thought, oh, some far-out Swami with pointed shoes. No, he must be a Swami from India. And everyone thought that, well, the Swami came from India, so, and then they thought, oh, he cooks very nicely, so we'll go eat with him. And he has this chanting, it's very nice, we can chant and dance. It's all very wonderful. It was all like self-centered in the beginning, when Srila Prabhupada came. It was all like, Prabhupada is providing us some enjoyment on a different plane, on a different level. This was the idea. But the real thing is, me, myself, what I want. But this is not Krishna consciousness. And this is not the happiness that Krishna consciousness can give. Srila Prabhupada said that not by being a yogi, not by being this or that, can one be Krishna conscious. Krishna consciousness means to be a lover of God. So who is that lover of God? That is the Mahatma. That is the person who is very sincere. Sincere means I want to hear about Krishna. That is sincerity. I want to hear more about Krishna. I want to chant very nicely. And yatantashkabridhata means I apply that sincerity in a practical way. By being very determined in my Krishna consciousness. So first there has to be the inspiration. The inspiration by hearing from Srila Prabhupada's books. By hearing from the Vaishnava. And the application. If there's only inspiration, if there's only sincerity, but there's no application, meaning I have some sincerity. So therefore, there'll be some advancement. But complete advancement or rapid advancement comes when we take that sincere inquiry and we put it into practice. And therefore, Krishna himself says that the duty when approaching a spiritual master or a Vaishnava to understand Krishna consciousness, there has to be pratipatena, there has to be submission or submissive attitude, an attitude of wanting to become more Krishna conscious, and pariprashna, there must be questions, inquiry, and there must be seva. Prabhupada said many times that inquiry without seva is a waste of time. Otherwise, if I'm just seeing the spiritual master or the Vaishnavas as an encyclopedic understanding of some esoteric spirituality, then there's no spiritual advancement. Spiritual advancement really comes when we apply seva, when we apply ourselves and we want to serve Krishna in our lives practically, in our chanting, in our using our body, as Srila Prabhupada said one time, that we purify our bodily existence and our senses by doing practical service. Cleaning the temple, worshipping the deity, or worshipping our deity at home, making our family Krishna conscious. And we purify the mind by chanting the holy name. And we purify the intellect by hearing from Prabhupada's books, by hearing from Shastra. Then, so our whole existence, the existence that we know, that the vehicles that we use to transmit our consciousness, the body, the mind, and the intellect, all become purified. And then our Krishna consciousness becomes pure. So what is that pure Krishna consciousness? Savaipum samparo dharmo hito bhaktir bhuksate ahaitukya pratyeta. We have to understand what are the symptoms of pure Krishna consciousness. And basically, the Bhagavatam gives two symptoms. Well, three. One, first of all, it has to be dedicated to Krishna. And then it has these two symptoms. Ahaituki, it is, there is no material cause, nor is there any material motive. It's simply wanting to please Krishna. This is the nature of love. When love is fully manifest, there is only a desire to please the other person. There's no self-interest. There's no self-desire. And apratyata, it has to be undeviating. It has to be constant. When these two things are present, then our Krishna consciousness is complete. Otherwise, we're as Krishna conscious as we can be. And that is our situation, all of us. We can only be as Krishna conscious as I am at this particular time. But we have to be very anxious to be more Krishna conscious. Every day, aspiring, inquiring, desiring, how can I be more Krishna conscious? And that will help us advance in our Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada said that we have to be a lover of God, not a lover of dog. Prabhupada said this many times. So what does that mean? It means that everyone, well, not everyone, but nowadays even less, but we love our husband, we love our wife. It's supposed to be that way. We love our children, we love our parents, we love our friends. Some people, they love their society, although that's becoming less popular nowadays. Because people see that the societies are not providing real happiness. So we love to a certain degree. But however much you can try to expand the loving propensity by extending it from one's limited understanding of everything, of nature, of God, then it can only reach so far. And it will always be frustrating. But if we love Krishna, then we automatically love our husband, our wife, our children, not by biological response or psychological necessity, but because we're loving Krishna. And if we're loving Krishna, then we love as even the ants or the dogs or the cats or every living entity. Even Prabhupada said, even the tigers. But Prabhupada said, don't embrace them. You can love them. Meaning there is a spirit soul. I respect that spirit soul within the tiger, but I respect it so much that I keep my distance. So, of course, there has to be discrimination. But the point is, so that's how we can measure the degree of my Krishna consciousness. How much can I love every aspect of Krishna's creation? How much can I love every living entity? How much can I love Krishna's energy to the point that I respect everything? Just like a devotee is automatically ecologically conscious. If one is actually a pure devotee, one has perfected ecology, one has perfected psychology, one has perfected sociology, one has perfected every branch, or every variegated branch that people use to try to understand how to be a better person, how to understand the truth. All these different departments of understanding are unfolding different new discoveries. But actually there is no discovery. Of course, the word discovery is very accurate because it means something was covered. It was always there. So actually discovery is not something that comes from me. It's becoming aware of something that's already existed. So Krishna consciousness means discovery. I'm uncovering the truth, but from the source. Not trying to reach the source by my limited mental and intellectual capacity, or by my physical ability, but by understanding, by accepting, as it says here, accepting Krishna as everything, and then expanding that understanding by hearing and chanting and serving and remembering Krishna. And then everything becomes very clear. Our Krishna consciousness becomes more and more and more developed. So the Bhagavatam gives the example. We all heard this example. If you pour water on the root, then the whole tree is nourished. So if we learn to offer our love to Krishna, then we'll see that our love will increase. Every place that I've already placed my love, it will increase. And where I haven't been able to place my love, it will become manifest. This is Krishna consciousness. So as Srila Prabhupada says here, this is Krishna consciousness, the development of love for Krishna. So when we chant the holy name, this should be our objective. How much more can I love Krishna? When we do some service, we serve the deity in the temple, in our home, we should be thinking, how can I please Krishna with this service? How can I please Krishna with this offering? Not that we do it mechanically, we're thinking about something else. But this is the great privilege. Seva adhikara diye. We pray to Tulsi Devi every day, hopefully, that please give me the privilege of devotional service. It is a privilege. And that's why it appears to be difficult. Because it's something that descends upon us. Krishna consciousness is not something that is automatic. Although in one sense it is automatic. Because we're trying to be Krishna conscious. Every one of us and every living being in this material world is trying to be Krishna conscious. Meaning that they want to love something, they want to love someone. So this is just the covered desire to want to love Krishna. So if we just expand that desire to the highest degree with the help of Shri Guru and Gauranga, then we can all become Krishna conscious. And so I especially wanted to mention this point in the wake of our Rath Yatras and in the anticipation of Kirtan Mela, so that we actually have the right consciousness. I'm going to read a couple of quotes also from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada about the nature of Kirtan. So that, not trying to limit it, but so that we understand that Kirtan is not something for my pleasure, it's something for pleasing Krishna. Because pleasing Krishna is the only way that I can experience real pleasure. There's no way that one can experience real pleasure without pleasing Krishna. And all the pleasures that we experience in this world without pleasing Krishna, which we've all experienced, are temporary. Not only are they temporary, but they're usually very short-lived. We eat. How much pleasure do you get from eating? It seems very wonderful. But if you don't discipline it very nicely and you don't do it in the proper way, it becomes very miserable. That those 20 minutes of pleasure can turn into hours of suffering, especially if you don't eat the right thing or with the right amounts. But something so simple as eating, to experience the real pleasure, then one has to eat the right amount, the right things, and then one gets energy, one gets satisfaction, and one feels nourished. So in the same way, of course that example is given in the Bhagavatam, but because of the time, I won't go into that example that is there in the Bhagavatam. Bhakti parashanu bhavo viraktir anyatra. That Krishna consciousness is like eating. First there's pleasure, pushti, then there's nourishment, and then there's satisfaction. So in the same way, the Bhagavatam says, first in bhakti, there's the pleasure of coming into contact with Krishna. Then there is the understanding of the absolute truth. And then there's virakti, that one becomes detached from material nature. Therefore the eating example comes from the Bhagavatam. Actually, every example that we use, if we study the Shastras, even the wisdom that's there in the material world, if you study the Vedic Shastras enough, you'll find that it is the source of everything, the source of all the saying. Even not a blade of grass moves without Krishna. That comes from the Purana. It comes from the story of Narayan Rishi. Anyway, that's a long story which we don't have time for. But the point is that everything is coming from Krishna. So we have to remember that, and we have to reciprocate. And as I mentioned yesterday, Krishna is doing everything. Just like I just gave the example. The government is doing everything to supply us with electricity, We just have to plug in. Of course, you also have to pay your electric bill. But the point is that Krishna is supplying everything. We just have to pay the little bill. And what is that bill? Just follow these little requirements. And they're only requirements so that our love for Krishna can flow and develop more and more and more. That is the nature of Krishna consciousness. So anyway, it's almost time for Arti. If there's one quick question or comment. Ed? Question.
On the point of love, it's very, very difficult to extend that love all the time. Devotees, our preaching mission, like yesterday in the Ratha Yatra, I was passing out the packets of kurma, and then that finished before the procession ends. So one devotee came up with a bright idea. Somebody was giving out some apples and some bananas, but there was some left after the devotees. So he said, Prabhu, why don't we offer it on the cart and we can give that out? So I tried to give that out, and eventually I ended up with these more or less butchers. It was a Muslim guy. And on the side of it was this gyro place. So I passed out some of the bananas. And the man next door to him was a Muslim man, very short. He shouted out, "Don't take it! Don't take it!" So,
yes. But then
I approached him. I said, "Why are you saying don't take it? I had already given to him." He said, "Because I'm a Muslim." So I said, "Oh, so don't you offer your food to Allah?" So he said, "No, Allah give us food. We don't give back Allah food." So I started confronting him, And he said, well, obviously he's a butcher. He had all this meat around him. It was very hellish. So I thought maybe for a moment I should rethink. Maybe he has a cutlass there or something.
But we offer prasad. That's our love.
Yeah, but it's not easy to give them.
Well, it's easy to give to some, and some won't. Prabhupada said our duty is to offer Krishna. Some will take. That depends on Krishna. So that should be the nature of our love. Our love compels us to, in spite of how people may react, to continue. Just like Srila Prabhupada, imagine if he would have become frustrated for years from the time he took Vanaprastha to the time he left for the West, and even in the beginning of the time he was in the West. Imagine if he would have become frustrated with one thing after another in India, one politician, one leader, nobody took him seriously. So imagine if Srila Prabhupada would have become frustrated. Then we would be eating doubles and being Trinidadians instead of being Vaishnava. So the love has to come from our heart and ultimately coming from Krishna. Some people may want to receive it and some people may reject it. But we have to develop that humility, tolerance, and all the qualities that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned in Sri Shastikam, so that we don't become frustrated. So anyway, it's time to receive their lordships. All glory, thank you very much for your attention. All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga,